Client transactions. To view a list of all the client transactions for a specific client, navigate to Clients, Manage Clients, search for a specific client, and select that record. This will open up the client page layout. Next, navigate on the left-hand side to Transactions. Select Transactions, and you'll pull down to a list of all the transactions for a specific client. In this case, the client has 13 transactions. 10 of the most recent are displayed on screen, and then you have a scroll bar at the bottom of the transaction area to see the remaining. The Transactions tab, All View, lists the status of the most recent transactions, the processing type, in this case, in-house or billing direct. In-house would be cash or check, and billing direct would be credit card if a merchant account is hooked up through Perfect Mine. We have the total amount for the transaction and the remaining balance, the contact related to the transaction, in this case, John Smith, the created date of the transaction, and the created user type, in this case, user. A user is an individual who has login capabilities such as a front desk attendant or a supervisor. If this transaction was created online through one of the online booking widgets, the created user type would be member. There's also an Actions tab on the specific record. In this case, if you hover over Actions, you have the ability to terminate, print receipts, or cancel. To find out additional information on a specific transaction, simply navigate to the transaction of interest and select it. This will bring up the transaction page layout. Here, you'll notice that we have some contact information in regards to the client, default payment information, transaction number, created date, and created user type, as well as finance information such as the amounts, the payment information, the current status, as well as some additional notes. On the left-hand side, you'll notice we have invoices, purchases, and GL journals. The Invoices tab brings us to all the invoices related to this specific transaction. In this case, because this is a point of sale item sold at the front desk, there is only one invoice. However, if this was a membership, you could potentially have multiple invoices that make up a single transaction. An example of that would be a 12-month reoccurring membership that's paid monthly. In that case, you have 12 invoices attached to one transaction. We'll look at that in more detail when we talk about memberships. The Purchases tabs gives us a list of everything that was purchased under this transaction. In this case, we can see that we have drop in basketball. It was $6 with no discount. There was one purchase for a total of $6. And the last is the GL journals. If we select GL journals, you'll see all the GL postings that are related to the specific transaction. In this case, general revenue received a credit of $6 for a drop in basketball, and the payment GL, which is the bank account, received a debit of $6, so everything balances out. Now let's navigate back to the top of the screen. In this case, you'll see some additional buttons. The first button to note under the transaction is the Edit button. If we select the Edit button, you'll see that there isn't very many fields that one can edit, simply because we can't alter the financial information on this transaction. However, you can navigate to the bottom and note that there is the Notes field. You can enter a note and click Save. The second button is the Terminate button. The Terminate button is used for invoices that are scheduled into the future. In this case, because this invoice has already been completed, there's no possible way to terminate it. Terminating an invoice will simply take all the GL postings and reverse them so that they're no longer valid. Print. The Print button allows you to select a specific document that was related to this specific transaction. In this case, you'll note that there's some membership agreements in the system that are linked to this specific transaction. The Print button generally will not be used regularly, if at all. Receipt. The Receipt button allows you to reprint the receipt based on this transaction. However, it does need to be noted if you have multiple invoices, you may want to go to the individual invoice to print out the receipt. Your options to print the receipt are either print receipt or email receipt. If you select email receipt, it'll email the receipt on file, in this case for John Smith. The last is a pull down. The pull down allows you to cancel a renewal based on a renewal membership. Again, we'll get this into a little bit more detail when we talk about memberships. Navigating to a specific transaction is a great way to find out some additional information. However, if you wish to do things such as refunds, you will have to navigate one level down to a specific invoice. In this case, this transaction only has one invoice, so we have to navigate down to this one and select this specific invoice. We'll talk about that next.